Hello and welcome to Ready Bet Action. We are here to give you some NFL DFS picks for Sunday, October 8th. I just heard the fresh crack of a Bud Light, and that means we are.
It's DFS
I'm
time,
sorry.
baby.
That was such a great way to start the show.
Let's go.
Okay.
Hey, I've
Fresh
been
crack
not
of Bud
drinking
Light.
this
Let's get
week.
going.
So it's Friday
Me
night.
neither.
We're getting ready for some NFL DFS. I'm drinking again. I've got surgery on my knee next week. Let's go talk some DFS. Lead the way.
You get
good
it.
sir.
I'm crushing a strawberry White Claw right now.
Yes.
All right. Let's dive right into DFS. Stefan, why don't you kick us off with the quarterbacks this week?
Yeah, let's start with Anthony Richardson at $7,000. I think he is absolutely phenomenal. He put up 30 points last week. In week 2 against Houston, he was on his way to doing that again. Again, when we're talking cash, you want someone who can triple their value. So, like, we're hoping to get at least 21 points. I think Anthony Richardson has a 20-point floor. I think he's got a 45-point ceiling. Anthony Richardson against Tennessee, who is good against the run, but stopping the running back is different than stopping a running quarterback. So I like him. Kirk Cousins is another guy that I really like in this Kansas City, Minnesota game. Again, we expect this to be a shootout. We know what happened when Jacksonville faced Kansas City, and we all thought the same thing, and it ended up being like a 30-point game. Well, I don't think that happens again. Kirk Cousins, I think, is a really fun player. At 6,900, I think you can stack him a lot of different ways. If you want to spend up at tight end with Hawkinson, awesome. If you want to do Jefferson, great. Jordan Addison's burned us too many times for us to jump back on there. But I do know Osborne is cheap. CJ Stroud is kind of our cheaper option at 6,000. He has put up over 20 points in 3 of 4 games. He's been getting you that 24, 25 point plateau the last 2 weeks. Again, if he hits 25 points at $6,000, he's like, that's 4xing. That's amazing. If he 4x's, you're going to win some money in cash, and you have the opportunity to do so in tournaments. So against Atlanta, whose defense has been, let's be honest, it's been pretty good actually. But against the pass, they are, a little bit better than most. But I think CJ Stroud has showed us that he can move that football with his Tank Dell and Nico Collins tandem. All right, that's it for quarterbacks. Let's have you talk to us about running backs.
Yeah, 100%. Let me give you one thought on quarterbacks real quick. Is that no, it's all good. I think that oftentimes people associate their fantasy lineup with the winning team. And while the Chiefs might win, you still will probably have a quarterback in Kirk Cousins who puts up really great fantasy numbers. So you don't always have to say this team's going to win, so therefore I shouldn't put their players on or they're not going to win, so I shouldn't put my players on my team. So
the only place where that makes me a little nervous is with running back. Bad game script. If it's not a pass catching running back. But you'll notice we've got 2 pass catching guys and 1 non-pass catching guy, and our non-pass catching guy is in there because we think that Detroit is a better team than Carolina. But take it away.
We do. Give us David Montgomery at $6,600. Look, the Panthers defense has been absolutely awful. Bryce Young has no help on that side of the ball. That's why we like David Montgomery to run the ball. Like, back in Detroit on turf against this Panthers defense, we expect the Lions to be up big. Therefore, Montgomery will get more carries. They honestly just haven't given. I think I keep talking about how Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get used more than DeAndre Swift was, and he's not. So go with David Montgomery. He's back. He looked great. I think he's going to look great again this week against a bad Panthers defense. Alvin Kamara, speaking of pass catching running backs, is back.
13 receptions last week.
13 receptions. He is back. This is great usage for him. He's definitely still one of their best offensive weapons. At $6,300 seems cheap to me. Last but not least, we love the Dolphins to just run up the score on an atrocious Giants defense. So give us Devin Achane. He corrected everyone on the broadcast, or Chris Collinsworth did, I think. Give us Devin Achane for $6,100. This kid has been absolutely explosive, and he is a pass catching running back, and he has shown the ability to break it from the backfield on running plays as well. I think he's their clear number one running back weapon, and he has passed like Mostert and those guys at this point. I really like him on DFS this week for a really good value at 6,100. Stefan, why don't you take us to wide receivers? Unless you have more thoughts on running backs.
Oh, I mean, Devin Atchen had a 55-yard carry last week. He had a 67-yard carry the week before. I mean, like you said, big play threat. Kamara was not going to catch 13 again, but if he catches 7, he'll be more productive. Montgomery, I think they're going to try to get him a touchdown every game. See why not? He's great. So I love these plays. Wide receiver is interesting this week. Jamar Chase, he's not the reason I got screwed last week. Joe Burrow was. And while Joe Burrow looks like he is really struggling with an injury, he keeps peppering. I hate the term peppering with targets. I can't believe I did that. Shame on me. He keeps just targeting Jamar Chase. T. Higgins looks like he's going to be playing this week, but we're not 100% sure. Regardless, I like Jamar Chase in this matchup. Again, favorable matchup against Arizona. You mentioned, I don't remember if it was on the show or right before the show, but you love this Eagles-Rams game to get a little bit nutty, so we want some of that. I think Devonta Smith is a fun way to maybe get a little bit contrarian. I think because A.J. Brown is only at 8,000-ish. I forget exactly what he's at. Yeah, he's at exactly 8,000. So you can save $600 here, and I think Devonta, after watching A.J. Brown go off, I think it's his turn this week. So I'm excited to see what he can do against that Rams defense. Finally, this is kind of you need to save money this week, I think, because we want to not pay super up, but there's a lot of dudes in that $6,000 to $7,000 range that we like. So I'm going to go with Jameson Williams at $4,000. Is kind of not a punt play, but a reach for the stars play.
Yes.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is doubtful at the moment. Jameson Williams is questionable, but not because of health concerns. He's just questionable because he's been suspended and they're not sure what he's going to do. So you're going to want to keep an eye on this game for sure. Luckily, it's an early game, so you're not going to be stuck with him in your lineup and not know how to scramble. So Jameson Williams is someone who I like in this game if he starts, and he doesn't have to do much. We all know it only takes one big play for him to, give us the value we need on this Detroit game against Carolina, who we mentioned their defense is just awful. So any thoughts on our wide receivers here, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I think on Jameson Williams' thoughts, it's like, look, Josh Reynolds started off really strong, but has looked kind of off and on. Like he definitely has not grabbed that.
He's also questionable
number 2 slot. Yes, and he's questionable. So it's like Williams can come back. He was going to be their number 2 to start the season. He can come back in and take that, I think, pretty easily as their second top target. And I really like it against this Panthers defense. So
another cheap play I like, I mean, it's not as cheap, but I like Adam Thielen at 5,100 if you kind of want to stack the other side of the Carolina-Detroit game. So why don't you bring us into tight ends, Eric, before we close out?
Absolutely. Let's talk about tight ends. I love Mark Andrews, this Steelers defense that he is playing.
I almost stood up and mooned you when you said, let's talk about tight ends.
How many Bud Lights have you only if you would have cracked another Bud Light before you did just then straight up ass. Mark Andrews, this Steelers defense is not, I think, what we thought it would be quite yet. I like the Ravens going into this game in general, and I like Lamar Jackson throwing to Mark Andrews. I think out of the big 3, tell me if I'm missing, maybe there's a big 4, but the Kelsey, Andrews, Kittle combo. Hawkinson. Yeah, I'm sure I'm missing someone there.
And Kittle's not on this slate. It's Kelsey, Hawkinson, Andrews, Waller are your top 4.
Right. And so I like Andrews the most out of the top tight ends there. So
and he's 2,000.
I don't think that's terrible.
Yeah, 2,100 cheaper than Kelsey and 1,000 cheaper than Hawkinson. So I like that play.
I don't know if Taylor Swift's allowed to go to Minnesota. That's Lizzo's town.
No, we're not talking about her.
I don't know if she's allowed to go. So I don't know if he'll be motivated. Dallas Goedert at 4,200. We already talked about why we love that Rams and Eagles game, and I think that is a touchdown waiting to happen to Goddard. So look for that. I do appreciate that they've renamed their goal line play from the tush push to the brotherly shove. It's a much better name.
Yeah.
Oh, real quick. I'm so sorry. I know this is going to take up a second of time. I was watching the Eagles Monday night game a couple weeks ago, and it was an Eagles bar. And this one guy just stood up every time the Eagles went for it. He just yelled tush push at like the top of his lungs. And like, we're in a, dude, you are a grown man. And he was just tush push. And like, couldn't stop saying it. And I was like, please stop saying tush push. Like,
why?
For the love of God.
Well, I want you to stop saying it. You've said it 16 times now. Here's my question. Why don't they do the brotherly shove for 2-point conversions every single time? They're getting the
every
3
time.
yards. Okay. Let's give us your last tight end.
Yeah. Speaking of former Eagles, we got Zach Ertz with the Cardinals here as a cheap tight end option. Ertz is still a solid tight end. I think I've been impressed with Dobbs as a quarterback for the Cardinals, even though they're still a bad team. And I like him to get the ball to Ertz as well. So I think that is it. I think our only comment on defense is we don't like any defenses. So pick the one that you think is going to do the least bad and roll with it. I think that's our comment on defenses for this week.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few that I like that are just a little bit expensive. So it's just a bummer. But yeah, like the Bengals are 3,700. I don't want to do that. The Steelers against Baltimore, I don't feel comfortable with that. I like Anthony Richardson, so I don't want to do the Titans, but I might end up at 2,400 just rolling with the Titans. But yeah,
take a cheap defense that you think might get some turnovers and go with it. This is the part of the show where we do a quick rundown of our DFS NFL picks for Sunday, October 8th. Stefan, why don't you give us the quarterbacks?
Yeah, and instead of giving you the thousands, I'm just going to give you the number. So at Anthony Richardson at 7, Kirk Cousins at 6'9", and CJ Stroud at 6.
Great. And I got our running backs at David Montgomery at 6'6", Alvin Kamara at 6'3", and Devin Achane got it at 6'1".
Great. Over at wide receiver, we're going to be rolling again with Jamar Chase at 7'9". We like Devonta Smith at 7'4", and a cheap option, Jamison Williams at 4 if he plays.
Last but not least, let's talk about tight ends. Stave, crack the Bud Light. Show us that booty. We got Mark Andrews at 5'5", Dallas Goedert at 4'2", and Zach Ertz at 3'5". Don't forget to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, X, and wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go make some money this week. We'll be back with NFL picks.
See you guys.